The dreamer of cats has been around since the Big Bang. Some of their first creations were beautiful nebulas that they painted to pass the time. They'd often explore the universe alone and would sometimes feel the sting of loneliness when gazing at companionship throughout the multiverse. One day, Lophe laid down for a rest and dreamt of what she wanted in a companion: loyalty, mutual respect, honesty and sincerity, love. When she awoke snuggled by 3 cats. This would mark the creation of all cats. Their names, in a context in which your mortal minds can comprehend, were Nebula, Pumpkin, and Goopy. Together, the 4 of them would continue to travel the multiverse together. This included eventually stumbling upon humanity. When gazing upon humanity, Lophe noticed that mankind had befriended canines but had not yet befriended cats on their planet. She looked in depth at the relationship between humans and canines. They had some of the aspects she deemed important in companionship: loyalty, sincerity. The canines truly loved their companions, but their power dynamics seemed to lack mutual respect. She looked upon her 3 children with love in her heart and decided to bless humanity with the gift of cats. From this point, the humans began to offer her tributes in many forms and by many names. She realized she could offer them more that they might appreciate just as much. Through Bast, she offered the Egyptians protection and good health. Through Freya, she offered the Norsemen love, fertility, war, and magic. Through Hecate, she offered the Greeks magic, the dark of night, and necromancy. However, not all of her names would be remembered through time by humans. There was once a small nomadic caravan lost to time who were devout worshippers of Lophe under a forgotten name. This group included a small boy named Menes, who was gifted a small black kitten directly by Lophe herself after the loss of his parents. Menes treasured his kitten, and the kitten often brought him comfort and companionship to ease the great loss he had suffered. One night, the caravan stopped in a village just beyond the River of Sky for the night. Little known to Menes, his kitten escaped him in the night seeking exploration and did not return by morning. Upon waking, Menes cried out for his kitten, desperate to find him before the caravan left, his little hands shaking as he became more and more desperate to find his friend. One of the villagers found the boy and explained to him that while the town had a rule that no man may harm a cat, that there was an old couple the villagers believed harmed cats, and that they had heard a cat crying into the night. And they often protected their pets and mousers from this couple to keep them from meeting an untimely fate. Menes broke down sobbing at the thought of never seeing his friend, who provided him so much love and comfort again. Falling to his knees, he prayed to Lophe about the loss of his friend, and Lophe heard his cries. She could feel his grief and loneliness. She shared his pain, as losing the kitten was to lose one of her own children. She remembered how lonely she felt before Nebula, Pumpkin, and Goopy, and sympathized with Menes once again. But this time, another feeling took a hold of her as well. Rage. Revenge. Justice. She hadn't gifted humanity cats for them to harm. She hadn't given humanity cats so this poor child would have to leave alone. A power had awoken in her that day, one she didn't even know existed. That night, she summoned every cat in the area to the old couple's home, committed to seeking revenge for the fallen kitten. The old couple pleaded with her out of fear that night, but it had fallen on deaf ears. She had her revenge, and no cat would be harmed in this village again. However, she didn't feel satisfied. She didn't feel better. The hurt didn't go away. She grieved for the loss of her child, and although she didn't regret what she did to the couple, she didn't like how she felt. After this, Lophe pulled away from humanity. She felt pain to leave her children on a planet where one could do something so wicked to them. But she also knew that they had created bonds and found new families to love them as well, and couldn't bear to cause them that grief even at the sake of their own protection. So she returned to her own dimension with just Nebula, Pumpkin, and Goopy. But she knew that if her children needed her, that they could reach her through their direct soul bonds. After this, Lophe would spend a long time alone, deep in her slumber for many, many years. She was sure at this point that humanity would have long forgotten her, and often hoped the best for her children. Until one day she found a new light in her heart. More and more of her children were full of light. Their families loved them, and some of them were even worshipped online. Online, Lophe thought, unknowing what this word meant. She returned to Earth to see what her children were raving about and found the world completely changed. They moved around in these metal boxes and held little things in their hand, and on these little things they were looking at cats. Millions and millions of people were viewing cats with love and adoration. It wasn't the same as when they worshipped her for the gift of cats. They were worshipping the cats themselves. They even made something called cat girls. Lophe was delighted to see humanity so in tune and loving her children that she decided to let go of the pain in her heart and rejoin her children and humanity. She decided to take the form of one of these cat girls and took to the internet to indulge in a form of entertainment called content creation. Stay tuned for her first stream. Everything had been a normal day for Lophe, cuddling with her cats, streaming with their friends she's made in this universe, until one day everything changed. The sky cracked open, revealing a more monstrous version of themselves. Everything started falling apart, and Lophe's heart broke as everything she cherished in this world started to crumble. It turns out this universe was born from the dreams of Elder God Lophe, who was no longer asleep. The Lophe we learned to know and love was the embodiment of an Elder God's hopes and aspirations. But what is to come of their home now that their higher self is awake? Suddenly, the Elder God reached down from the hole in the sky and grabbed Lophe. "You're nothing but a delusion," they exclaimed. "This world was never meant to be, and neither were you." Being in the hand of the Elder God, panic filled Lophe's body, not knowing how to get out of this situation and protect those most precious to them. This would be their end. After consuming Lophe, the Elder God left just as quickly as it came, perhaps falling back into a new slumber and creating another universe with its own Lophe. It left this world in tatters and frayed at the seams. All that remained of Lophe was their arm. Lophe's 3 original children grieved for their mother. Not wanting to ever be without her, they willed themselves to be combined into the remains of her essence, effectively bringing her back to life. Lophe looked around at what was left of their home, their friends and cats gone, a shell of what the world once was, destroyed and abandoned by the God who created it, who created them. After learning that their whole existence in this plane was a dream of a higher version of themselves, Lophe felt determined to protect Lophes from other universes and timelines from this pain and travesty. But what could they do? After all, they were simply an instance in a bigger web. Refusing to give up, Lophe reached into the scar that the Elder God left in the sky. They began to pry at the scar with all of their will and with all of their strength until it finally broke free. However, they could have never expected what they found on the other side. After opening the scar, Lophe felt their body being sucked through a vortex. In another universe, a book has fallen off the shelf, and the Lophe we know has fallen into this world with it. When Lophe emerged from the other side of the vortex, they found themselves in a library with its own Lophe who acts as the caretaker of Elder God Lophe's endless dreams. They would need to convince this Lophe to aid their quest if they wish to move forward. So how will you aid their quest?
Like a Russian beat, and him